this holiday season is probably going to be worse for you if you are the niece or the nephew of Suns owner Robert Sarver. That, my friends, if you don't give me at least like a pity clap, a golf clap, or a fucking country club clap, then I don't know what to say to you. That was a decent segue, if I do say so myself, as it transitioned right into what has been the biggest story that came out within the last week. Unfortunately, the news dropped on, I think it was last Thursday or so, Thursday or Friday. I think it was Thursday. Robert Sarver, currently the owner, the governor for the Phoenix Suns, it came out that this dude is like the mega racist. Like, he saw what Donald Sterling was doing last decade and was like, oh, nah, no way, brother. This guy is not going to take away my crown of racism. First of all, I got to address where the report came from. The report came from Baxter Holmes and ESPN. I can't remember if Baxter was the only reporter working on this story, but it was sourced from, I think, 70 different people whom had either worked in the Suns organization or were a part of the organization to some degree since Robert Sarver's tenure began back in, I think it was 2004, 2006 or something. So it's been quite a while. It's been a decade, more than that, a decade and a half of Robert Sarver's racist, homophobic, just all around dickhead, douchebag type antics. The article was it was like a short story. It was like I was reading the fucking manga, like the origin story of Dr. Racism. There were so many accounts in this thing from everyone, men, women. Earl Watson was like he was the intro in the article, which I'm not going to read because it took me like 25 minutes to read at the gym while I was doing cardio, and I would spend 45 minutes talking about it if I were reading it and giving my commentary at the same time, which is something that I don't have the time to do right now. And plus it took a lot out of me to get through that, because it was just like constantly getting smacked in the face by just how vile a human being Robert Sarver could be. And it started off with the typical racist thing. It's like, oh,
Draymond Green says the N-word. Why can't I say the N-word? And
obviously Robert Sarver is not saying the N-word. He's talking about the actual N-word. You can't say the N-word if you're a white person. I'm sorry. You can't say it, dude. Move the fuck on. Get over it. But this was only scratching the surface. There was this one piece of the article where this was back when the Suns were trying to sign LaMarcus Aldridge away from the Spurs. And as we know, LaMarcus Aldridge, Texas-born, Texas-made. Like, has family in Texas, played for the Spurs, or was able to go back home and play for the Spurs, attended the University of Texas at Austin, played for the Longhorns. Now, the Suns were trying to get him to sign in Phoenix, which, mind you, not that far of a trip from, I don't know where exactly LaMarcus Aldridge was staying at the time, but, San Antonio, Dallas, it's probably like 90 minutes. And Robert Sarver hatched the brilliant idea, and he said the quiet part out loud, on the record, mind you, and was like, what we have to do is we have to bring strippers in and have the NBA players impregnate these strippers so that way they're obligated to stay here and play for us. How does that go through your mind? How you're trying to conduct a business transaction to sign a player whom you think will help take your team to a title, and that's the justification that you devise, that you come up with, is to get him to impregnate someone whom he is not married to? And Robert Sarver, of course, if he thinks like this, he's probably a fucking, I'm not even going to get into it. He's probably a fucking like evangelical Christian who like pisses on pictures of marginalized people. Like, it was so fucking insane to me. But getting deeper and deeper into the article, and I strongly suggest that if you haven't read it, you stop listening to this and go read it, because it really is a fucking bombshell report. Seeing as how Robert Sarver couldn't concoct like a basketball reasoning for this became ever more apparent when now, owners who are hands-on are never a good thing for whatever club they're managing or they're overseeing. I can only attest to this in the NBA. and in the NFL, because those are the two sports that I am most familiar with. But if your owner is trying to meddle in the day-to-day operations of your club, it's probably not a good thing. Literally, if you're an owner, if you are the owner of a sports team, you don't deserve rights. You already have untold billions of dollars, at least if you're someone like Robert Sarver or Steve Ballmer or Mark Cuban. You literally need to just be a sack of meat or just like a sack of money. Sit courtside, Mark Cuban, totally cool with him being involved in the team, like on game nights, sitting there, being visible, having a good time. Same thing with Steve Ballmer. But I really don't feel that these guys are super involved in the day-to-day operations of their club, because guess what? You have other people to do that. That's why you have a coaching staff. That's why you have a president of basketball operations. That's why you have a general manager and then executive vice presidents and assistants to all of these people. So that way you can just sit there and cut the check. Literally, that's all you have to do. If you're an owner, don't do anything else, because then you wind up with your team being fucking dog shit because you have no basketball IQ at all, very much like Robert Sarver does. Because there was this one piece of the article where he was like trying to get the coaching staff to run a pick and roll under the basket. You can't fucking do that. That's not basketball, dude. And then there was this was back when Jamal Crawford was with the Suns. It was him, and I forgot who the rookie was at the time, but Robert Sarver comes into the room, he sits down, and he starts talking about X's and O's, and Jamal Crawford gets up and leaves, and he's like, man, I can't listen to this shit. The only bit of comedic relief in the entire report, and it was much needed, because this guy is like diabolically racist. This guy really is like the fucking Dr. Octavius of the racist cinematic universe. Just absolutely atrocious. Now, the NBA, of course, responded to these allegations quite swiftly, and I was surprised that the Suns addressed the upcoming story way before it was coming out. And of course, they denied it. Robert Sarver issued all of his statements through his legal team because he's a little bitch. He doesn't want to face these allegations head on because he's a fucking little cuck. And then, of course, everyone that's currently with the team is saying that, oh, this isn't the Robert Sarver that I know, which obviously you're being held hostage. You're not going to say, if you're employed there, if you're dutifully employed, you don't have the leverage to be like, oh, well, yeah, this guy's a fucking raging racist, a raging homophobe, a raging misogynist. He really hit the hateful asshead trifecta. Like, you're not in the position to say that because you're not going to jeopardize your employment status. And it's very unfortunate that someone like James Jones has to be like, oh, this isn't the Robert Sarver that I know. Meanwhile, literally 6 dozen sources, players, coaches, former executives, detailing the toxic, the absolutely insane working conditions that they had to endure while employed with this organization and under the headassery of Robert Sarver. Now, as I mentioned before, the NBA is conducting an investigation on this, but I don't really know. One, I don't know how long the investigation is going to take because there's only been one other instance like this, such a bombshell allegation, at least that I can remember, and it was with Donald Sterling. Obviously, both of these are bad. I'm not saying that Robert Sarver needs to be let off the hook because there isn't tangible evidence. Like there isn't an actual piece of evidence. It's all just witness testimony at this point. But it's also not a criminal case, so I really don't fucking think it matters. But when you have the Donald Sterling incident, of course, there was audio of him saying,
"Hey, you can't be seen in public with black people. Are you crazy?" It's like, that's Magic Johnson. He's black. What are you doing?
Still, if anyone had tried to finesse Robert Sarver into saying it, I don't think it would have been that hard. I just don't think that anyone really thought of it because this guy is so omnipresent. Like, you can't even go to HR. You can't even talk with the HR representative in their office. But, I mean, I don't even know how much HR is going to help you because they're just trying to protect the corporation. They have no interest in protecting the employees. I still think that Robert Sarver, because there are so many allegations, again, 70 people came forward. Like, you can't just dismiss 70 different individual accounts. Accounts from guys like Earl Watson, Taylor Griffin, who's Blake Griffin's brother, who was the punchline of a rather just not funny joke. He was talking about Robert Sarver saw that Taylor Griffin had no hair on his legs. And he's like,
What, do you shave them? It's like, do you shave your balls too?
like, ha ha ha. Like, that's fucking weird, man. That's a weird joke to make in a workplace environment. Like, I'm not one to not laugh at a tasteless joke, right? But it's the context. If this was like Blake saying it to his brother, it's different. If it's a close friend saying it to him, it's different. When it's your boss, it's fucking weird. It's bad workplace etiquette. I don't understand why people are so fucking blind to how this is a bad thing. And not just that, but everything else that Robert Sarver has been accused of. And you can't brush off and be like, oh, these were private conversations. It's not private if you're at work. That it's literally his job to be the Phoenix Suns owner. I don't know how long it's going to take for the NBA to come to a solution on this. I can't imagine it being too drawn out because like it's definitely a cloud on the NBA right now. Even more so because it's in season and the Suns are playing basketball games and the Suns are actually good now in spite of Robert Sarver's toxic energy. I think that regardless of the length of time for the investigation, I feel pretty confident in saying that the NBA is going to level the same type of punishment that they had for Donald Sterling. I think they're going to force him to sell the team. They have to run a vote on this, and I think it's 2/3 of the other owners, 22 out of 29, I believe, have to agree to have him forcibly sell the team. I don't really know what goes on after that. Like if you just bring in, or they'd probably just find another owner. Probably fucking Elon Musk would be like, oh, here, I'll pay fucking $6 billion for the Phoenix Suns. And they're like, that's more than their valuation. He's like, I know, but if I pay $6 billion, I don't have to fucking solve world hunger. They're like, oh, okay. Makes sense. Probably going to ban him from every NBA event ever. They're just going to totally excommunicate him. He'll probably be fined, but I think the maximum fine that can be levied against someone within the NBA is $2.5 million, which for someone like Robert Sarver, I'm just going to look up his net worth real quick. For a multi-billionaire like Robert Sarver, or he's not even a multi-billionaire. What the fuck? This guy's not even a fucking billionaire. What a bitch. 800 million. What a fucking weeb. He's not even a billionaire. Fucking bozo. Still, $2.5 million to a guy who's worth almost $1 billion is nothing. And there's really nothing more that's going to come of this, which I think is the worst part because, like, again, this guy's got more money than 99% of the people who have ever lived on this earth combined. Nothing's going to come of it, but I guess getting him out of the NBA is best for the Phoenix Suns because I could only imagine if you're Devin Booker, if you're Chris Paul, if you're DeAndre Ayton, if you're anyone on that team, if you're anyone associated with the Phoenix Suns or anyone, associated with Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, between him and Kirsten Sinema, it's probably a bad time to be a resident of Arizona.